Support for Disrupted comes from the Connecticut Office of Film, Television, and Digital Media.
For many Black Americans, following the news can be a psychological challenge. 4 in 5 Black adults say they see or hear racist or racially insensitive coverage about Black people at least sometimes. That's according to a 2023 Pew Research survey. Coverage can be hard to watch even if it isn't insensitive. While news about violence against Black people is important to know, it can also affect one's mental health. This can be a lot to handle. So some people are trying to change the narrative by adding another emotion to the mix: joy. From Connecticut Public Radio, this is Disrupted. I'm Kalila Brown-Dean. This hour, we're talking with people who center Black joy. Later, we hear from the founders of a summer camp that's bringing smiles to campers' faces. But up first, Akira Peterkin, woodworker and founder of Black Joy Creations. It's a Connecticut-based business that sells handcrafted wood products and leads woodworking classes. Akira, it's great to have you on Disrupted.
Hi, thank you for having me.
I have to ask you this basic question that I'm sure you get all the time, and that is, tell us how you got into woodworking.
I do get that question often, especially looking the way I look, because woodworking tends to be very white male, older white male centered. So, how I got into it is, well, lots of HGTV. And then in 2019, I bought a condo. We remodeled the condo, but during that remodeling process, I'm in a same-sex relationship. So during that remodeling process, a lot of men just felt like they can mansplain and disregard what I have to say, or like not take me seriously, or take advantage of the situation. So I said, you know what? I probably should learn how to use some tools. So even if I hire somebody, I can at least let them know I know what I'm doing and they can't take advantage of me. And then, so I took a course for my birthday and then I fell in love with it. And I've been doing it ever since.
I watch a lot of HGTV. I'm really good at watching DIY videos, and it has never turned into the kind of skill that you have in order to do that. What is it about working with wood, this process of creation, that really drew you in, of moving from this is something that I do in a project around the house to this is a business I want to launch and an education practice that I want to bring other people into? What is it about wood that speaks to you?
One of my mentors, before he allowed me to touch any tools, he really needed to reinforce to me the concept that wood comes from trees. And even though it's like cut down, it's still living and breathing. And so he really emphasized with me understanding the anatomy of trees and understanding that wood speaks its own language. And even if you're a woodworker and you think you can manipulate this tool or this tree to work in your favor, sometimes the wood has its own way of wanting to exist, and you sometimes have to go with that. I really appreciate it because now I look at trees differently. Now I can look at the leaves of a tree and know what tree it came from. And so I feel like it's a way to connect with source and like the earth, while also creating something beautiful out of it as well.
I love that an experience that turned from you feeling overlooked, undermined, disrespected, has become this journey of, as you said, respecting the origins, the source of this beautiful art that you're creating. And I also think, Akira, it allows you to connect to something deeper and to be able to share that and experience it. Talk to us about the name of your business, which is called Black Joy Creations. What does Black Joy mean for you?
To me, Black Joy Creations, well, Black Joy in essence is the ability for Black folks to continue to show up in a way that still honors their humanity and all the multifacetedness of them. And like, there's this deep joy in our culture that cannot be manipulated, right? Like, you can see it through our music, the ways we show up with each other, our dance, our celebrations. So even when we've got all the stresses of systems around us and societal oppressions and people telling us that we're less than, like Black people have this way of like taking something and flipping it. Like we create the culture, like the meme culture. Like a lot of Black folks, like we'll turn something and create the whole language out of it and jokes out of it. And so that term in general, that phrase in general that comes from our culture really speaks to our creativity in general. So I wanted to pay homage to that. And so so to pay homage as well as also to recognize how for me woodworking is also a form of a therapeutic form for me too. So it was also a way of showing like how I'm processing things through my work and through my art and creating joy, a piece that is at the end of the process, like joyful to look at.
What does it physically, spiritually, sonically feel like for you when you are working with this wood that you said is still living and breathing, and you are creating something that then becomes a vessel for joy? What does that feel like for Akira?
What I really enjoy is wood turning. So that's when you put a piece of wood on a lathe. So it's kind of like pottery, but instead you're using the wood and chisels. And so the wood's spinning very fast. And for me, being in front of a lathe with the wood spinning very fast, and you're literally like dancing with the chisels, like it's how your body moves is the type of shape that the wood creates. And so I usually just get in my head, I put on my headphones and I just zone into the process. So I literally feel like when I'm in that process, it's just me and the wood, if that makes sense. There's nothing else around me, nothing else I'm thinking of because it's just me dancing with the wood and being very present in that process. And I love that because it's like I get to tune into something that I enjoy and tune out all the extra noise that might be around me. So I guess if I was to pick a word, I would say at peace.
The way that you describe this process, I can visually imagine what that is for you. And I think it's why the phrase Black joy becomes so resonant. I wear a lapel pin, I have it on today that says Black joy. And
Mm,
sometimes it's a reminder for me when the world feels heavy, when things feel really noisy, when I feel a bit overwhelmed. Some days I will wear this pin and I'll touch it, right? And it sort of centers me, it calms my system. I also have another pin that says embrace hope. And so, in
mm.
those ways, I feel like I'm speaking to and over myself, but I also never know who's going to look. I love lapel pins, by the way. I never know who's going to look at that pin and maybe they'll be encouraged, or maybe they will take a moment to take a deep breath and just drop their shoulders and just be, especially in times when it feels like the world does not allow for that. It's also why I'm so intrigued by the work that you're doing in your classes of bringing people into this experience who may not usually see themselves in that way or even know what this art form is or if it's something they can do. And in those ways, you are transferring joy and affirming it. What is that experience like for you to be in a class with someone who says, "Look, I don't know, it was something to do," and you see that moment where they too are dancing or connecting with joy? What is that for you?
Yeah. I like to say Black folks love community, right? So I think when I'm in hosting a class, it's like being engaged with community. And I often get people of all walks of life as well as all experiences. But most of the folks coming into the class is an intro class, so most of them are they want introductory experience to woodworking. And usually when I do introductions, I have people go around and share like what made them sign up. So some people got it because it was a gift from a loved one, and some people are like, I haven't taken woodworking since my tech class in high school. And I'm like, do they still do that these days? I don't know, right? So there's people of all ages are coming in, but by the time it's usually a cutting board class that I do. And I'm teaching them the anatomy of wood. I'm teaching them like some of the tools that you'll use for general woodworking, and then we take a lunch. And by the time they come back from lunch, they went to lunch together as a group, and they come back and they're all like, "Oh, we're loving this class," and they've seen their cutting board unglued up, and you can see they built connections throughout the class that they were able to go eat together, and they come back, and by the end of class, they're all in like pure joy seeing their piece, their cutting board piece, and everyone made the strips of the cutting board unique to fit like their unique cutting board, even though it's like the same types of wood. Everyone created something different. And then they're always asking if I do more classes and saying that I do it at a community wood shop that I also am a volunteer for. So then they end up signing up for the wood shop. And then it's also cool to see them in the wood shop after the fact, right? As members of the wood shop. And now ask what they're working on and what they're building. And now they're like building bookcases for their house or creating a toy for a kiddo, right? So it's really cool to see them learn to get comfortable with the tools through the class and then sow a skill that they can now grow in themselves. Um, and also, what I really enjoy about it is I don't know what the demographics were like before I started teaching this class, but I am noticing there's a lot of queer and black and brown folks coming through. And so that's cool to see too, is like me being able to represent that for that community to see that they too can access woodworking and it's not just an older white man kind of art, I guess.
You are an artist, an entrepreneur, an educator, and you are also a therapist and a social worker
Mhm.
who is helping people heal in so many ways, but also encouraging people to listen to that inner voice. How do you think these types of creative endeavors can support people in their mental health journeys, in their journeys toward wellness and wholeness, and embracing that they are enough as they are? What's that connection for you?
Yeah, well, I think I can speak from a personal level and a professional level. My wife also always jokes and says she's never met someone who's never done any drug in their entire life. And I think for me, I grew up like in a domestically violent home, and I'm also sexual assault survivor. And I think for me, I've always had art as a form of expression, right? So Tupac was my introduction to poetry. So a lot of my poems, I'm a spoken word artist, so a lot of my poems kind of sounds like hip hop. And my both of my parents are very artistic. Where my mom sings, she writes. My dad art draws and sketches, and so I think I got the combination of both of them. So I've always had art as a form of expression throughout challenges in my life. And so as a kid, that was my outlet to process what I was going through, whether it was painting, sketching, or writing. And then when I decided I didn't say I was going to be a social worker. My mentor in college said I was a natural social worker and suggested I explore the career as a career. And when I decided that maybe I'll try the social work thing, I always wanted to integrate art into it because I knew art was outlet for people, and it could be a very healthy outlet and a space where that's the only place someone can actually express what they actually need to express, but through these different like mediums or metaphors. And so yeah, so I think I also always say everyone's creative, but some adult or somebody in their life kind of shun them from their creativity, and so we shut it down. So it's really maybe reintroducing people to their creative side or encouraging people to continue to manifest their creative side. But I think art is a tool that can help us find other ways to communicate whatever it is that we need to communicate.
The actor Danny Glover says art is a tool for understanding and art
Mm,
is a tool for healing.
mm-hmm.
And I remember I had this conversation with him, and he said, every artist that you encounter has been through something or is continuing to work through something. And something that, Akira, is so clear in everything that you've shared with us today are the many ways that you're able to move through pain toward power and to
Hmm.
embrace that and claim that and to share that with others. You are leading this business called Black Joy Creations. And so I have to ask you, what is bringing you joy right now?
Oh, yeah. Well, that's a great question because these days I'm stressed because we just bought a house. So I guess that's gonna be joyful eventually. But what's bringing me joy is I have a 1-year-old daughter who's like when you like I think also during times of stress you just look at the little one and she's just existing, right? But you can't help but chuckle. And so just watching a human come into their own has been very joyful and also keeps me grounded and present. I can sing every Miss Rachel song. Shout out to Miss Rachel. It also is very humbling to raise a 1-year-old because you're realizing, oh damn, you really learn teaching somebody everything brand new, right? And so watching her take her first steps. So watching her, she does sign language thanks to Miss Rachel. And yeah, just watching and observing her grow has been bringing me joy.
I would say raising a 1-year-old is also pretty humbling because you
Mhm.
realize that the universe of things that you can control is pretty small. And it
Yes, it
helps
can.
you to lean into that, not as something that is overwhelming, but inspiring, and allows you to create in a very different way about what is the journey and relationship you want to have. Akira Peterkin is a woodworker and founder of Black Joy Creations. Their business sells handcrafted wood products and leads woodworking classes. Thank you so much, Akira.
Thank you.
October is National Domestic Violence Awareness Month. If you are experiencing abuse, we invite you to call the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-SAFE. That's 1-800-799-7233. You can also text the word START to 88788. Coming up, we'll hear about a summer camp that's spreading Black joy. It was started by a group of young people who want to make change in Detroit. This is Disrupted. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Disrupted. I'm Kalila Brown Dean. This hour, we're talking with people about how they spread Black joy in their communities. Summer camp is the source of many people's fondest memories, but some kids might not feel like summer camp is for them. Black Joy Summer Camp empowers youth to center their own joy. It was created by Detroit Heals Detroit. It's an organization led by Black youth that seeks to empower other youth. Camille Hollenquist is executive director of Detroit Heals Detroit. Brianna Donald is co-chair of Detroit Heals Detroit. They are both co-founders of Black Joy Summer Camp. Camille and Brianna, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us, Kalila. Thank you.
Camille, before we talk about the camp, because it is so unique and important and special, I want to talk about the larger organization that is sort of the umbrella for bringing this camp together and all of the things that are happening in Detroit. Talk to us about the organization Detroit Heals Detroit.
So Detroit Hills Detroit was actually founded in a high school. It was a charter school located on the east side. Brianna can also speak more to this, but in that high school, the students were experiencing a whole range of systematic and systemic issues that were impacting their ability to engage in the school's curriculum as well as engage with each other. And so their teacher, an English teacher named Sarita Darby, had noticed these issues that were arising in her classrooms and decided to pivot the focus from remaining on the curriculum and going through with the status quo as teachers tend to do because they are so underpaid, and decided to incorporate healing justice practices in her curriculum. And so that entailed doing relationship-based activities like with the students, like, putting them all in a circle and asking them like, who are you? Where are you from? What have you experienced? What has, caused you to feel this way and not be able to engage, authentically and wholly like with your classmates. And that was very transformative for them because they never had that opportunity to really express, just how hard it is to be a young Black child in the city of Detroit. And so through that space, they created a very deep and intertwined relationship with each other, from student to teacher, from student to student, and it was something that was so transformative that they wanted to bring it outside of the school and make sure other students had access to that. And so since then, they've been really intent on making sure that there are spaces that not only address, the root cause of like what we're experiencing, but also going a step further and organizing around those root causes, so that other children don't have to experience the same thing that they have.
Brianna, what did it mean for you to hear that these were young people from the city working with their teacher to say, we're going to heal on our terms and we're going to lead that process? What did that mean for you?
Well, I actually was one of those students, so it was it was kind of like a really surreal moment for me because up until that point I had never really like seen or witnessed that happen. And to have somebody kind of speak that life and power into you that was an adult, it definitely was like a different change, and it definitely made me want to keep doing this type of work. And that's what motivated us all to keep pushing forward. And that's really kind of where the name did stem from. It was like, okay, well, if we're going to be the ones, driving forward, pushing and healing our community, this is Detroit healing Detroit. Like, we're putting the hands on each other and making sure that we feel the love and the care, and that we're taking care of each other the way that we wanted to see it happen for ourselves. And I just thought that it was really special, that because we did start with ourselves and we were like, yeah, we can definitely like, push this out to other people and give this to other younger people and let them, find their power and their way through building and connecting and healing with us too.
Camille, I want to lift something that Brianna started with, which was what it meant to have people speak life into her, into other young people, to see them as promise and possibility and not as just problems, which I think too often is the ways that many adults approach young people. Talk to me about that idea of moving from here is this school-based organization of young people saying, we will heal internally, moving that out of the schools, but then creating the Black Joy Summer Camp. Talk to us about that development.
The idea to move out of school, it came from the fact that there isn't a lot of resources that currently exist in schools, especially the ones that exist on the East Side. And levels of engagement, of course, are limited for teachers and how they're able to show up for their students. And so in order to really authentically engage with students and to not continue to replicate the systems that keep them disparaged, it makes sense for a program such as DHD to exist outside of the schools. And so, with the creation of Black Joy Summer Camp and its first iteration, it was to just simply center Black joy, which is something that was, a foreign concept to youth who are, becoming adultified themselves because of the level of responsibility that they have to take on and the internalized views that they're experiencing. And so in that camp we just allow young people to be young people, and we don't really stick to any like standards of like maturity or anything like that. And so with this year, we wanted it to be a little bit more structured, a little bit more enriching in terms of like how now that we've centered joy, now that we have allowed our young people to really live in that experience and understand what that feels like and what that means for them, we can build on that. And how can they bring that joy that they learned in the first camp, in the first iteration of camp to others? And so we were really intent on making sure that they engage with the community around them and engage with young people that are from different parts of the city. And so we went to multiple different partner sites around the city of Detroit, as well as some natural areas as well, because it's important to realize that the socialization that they received in terms of Detroit, which is like, oh, I have to get out of the city in order to bring life back into the city, and realize like they are the life that is the city, you know what I mean? And so I think creating that level of understanding within them was really powerful to see it in real time, and to really see them change over like these past 6 weeks was just really, really I don't know, it did something to me. I really loved it. Yeah.
Brianna, as Camille is talking about working with young people and seeing young people step into their power, there is this smile that is creeping across their face. And you can see as they are remembering, maybe it was something they heard from a young person or something that they remembered. There's a connection to that joy, the joy of those young people, but also the joy for Camille as a staffer to be a part of that. Brianna, walk me through some of what campers did as well, in that complement of just being able to be young people, to not have to be the strong young person or to be the brave young person, but to just be the kids that they are. What were some of the things that they did during the camp?
A lot of the things that we did in camp were structured around just the things that they wanted to do. Like, we let them have choice in what they wanted to do a lot of the days. And you could see, like, we could tell when we would, have them doing something like going to a class or doing something and they weren't all the way interested in it. And, we worked hard ourselves to make sure that we didn't feel like, oh man, like we just did this for nothing. It was like, no, this is for the kids, so if they're not really interested in it and they don't want to do it, we're not gonna make them do it. We're gonna pivot, move on to something that they find to be enjoyable, because I mean, a lot of kids don't get that in a day-to-day basis in life. It's just, do what I say and that's what we doing and that's it. And it was really kind of sweet to see them, come together and be like, well, okay, let's figure something out. We want to do this. We want to eat this. We want to go here. We want to see this. Like, it was really nice to see them like make their own choices and talk about it amongst themselves. Like, this is real community. This is stuff that happens every day. They're doing what we do, just, in their own way. And it was very nice to see that. And over the 6 weeks, like, they've become so like independent, but also like really trusting of us as well. And I think that was also something that was really beautiful to see, like the way they bonded and made their own like personal connections with each of us as the counselors, and like really just kind of taking the chance to really, let us know like, okay, we really like y'all. Like, we want to be here. We trust y'all. We want to have these experiences with you guys. Like, those were definitely some very enjoyable moments that I always say is like the beauty of the camp. And like, I always can't wait to see, how they grow and develop next year and how they'll be and all of that. So those were like really important things that they did day to day. Was like they chose what they wanted to do, and how the day was going to work, things that they wanted to do. We provided them activities and stuff, like they gave them creative outlets, so think drawing, music, dance, stuff like that. And yeah, they just express themselves in their own way. They are very funny kids. Like, they joke, they laugh, they play. Like, they're hilarious and they're a joy to be around, honestly. And when you like really take the that for what it is, and you take that as something to really cherish and appreciate, I think it definitely gives you more, and it brings back out like the appreciation for it, because it's like, wow, like they're actually experiencing and having a great time, and it's a privilege for me to be able to witness that with them.
That was Brianna Donald, co-chair of Detroit Heals Detroit. She was joined by Executive Director Camille Hollenquist. They are co-founders of Black Joy Summer Camp. Coming up, Brianna and Camille talk more about what it means to work at a youth-led organization. This is Disrupted. Stay with us. Welcome back to Disrupted. I'm Kalila Brown-Dean. This hour, we're talking with people who prioritize Black joy. We've been speaking with Brianna Donald and Camille Hollenquist, co-founders of Detroit's Black Joy Summer Camp. One of the most striking aspects of Black Joy Summer Camp is that it doesn't cost campers any money. Ask Camille to tell us more about the decision to make the camp completely free.
We don't want to be a barrier to, a young person being able to enjoy their summer, because I've been in their shoes. My mom, she was a social worker, and in order to experience summer camp, she had to sneak me into, 4-H camp, so it's like we had to be strategic about how we can get these experiences, for me and my siblings. And so wanting to make sure that, like I said, every young Black person has the opportunity to have that summer camp experience, which I think is a critical one for one's development, because it's like you always think back to summer camp. You always think about the relationships that you built. You think about, those awkward moments, those fun moments. It also speaks to those times of reflection for me as I'm in my or like late 20s, where it's like, I remember being 13 and folks like saying all of these, like, I don't know, transformative things to me. And it's like, it's just going in one ear and out the other. But as I'm looking back in reflection, I remember that. And I appreciate the fact that someone actually showed me that or talked to me about that. Like I had that. And I think when it comes to free programming in Michigan, or just in Detroit specifically, like we really aren't that big on we're just really not big on like demographics, if that makes sense. Like, it's free. You want to come, you want to come. We also have seen in terms of like our campers, there are young people who were experiencing things that are related to their development when it comes to like their behavioral health. I guess that you can kind of think about it as a form of immersion therapy in a way, where it's like, they're having just a hard time like adapting to like their social environment, having a hard time really vocalizing like what they're experiencing and what's going on in their lives. And an example is one of our campers who was taking on a lot of new responsibility at home due to her mother's like recent loss of employment. And instead of pushing her child to work, as many parents are often, forced to do, she said, "No, you're going to camp. You're going to camp, and you're going to be a kid, and that's what you should be doing." And through that camp and building a relationship with this camper, she opened up so much, to the point where her mom contacted us and was like, "She hasn't smiled in weeks. It's been so long since I've seen her smile, but since she started camp, like that's something she's been seeing more." And it was just such a like, I don't know, like something to hear that, wow, like we're actually making impacting change. And it's also been super impactful for myself as well, because, I'm the youngest of 5 siblings. And so I'm always the younger sibling. And to have younger siblings and to be able to pour into them and reflect what I experienced as, a sibling, it was also just like, wow, I really needed this. I really needed it. So it's not only healing for our young people, but healing for us, as well as their families, knowing that they have a safe place where their child can be during the summer, which tends to be a very tumultuous time, for young people in the city of Detroit. And so by giving them access to, not only just free activities, but activities that are enriching and activities that they have the agency to, choose to engage in, and choose to engage with each other, is, I think, the real solution to, fixing some of the harm that's going on in Detroit.
I think some people would ask, like, why a camp or program that centers joy? I think those are usually people who take for granted that joy is always present for them. And when you talk about this young person who's had to take on new responsibilities at home, And to have a mother say, you deserve this opportunity to go and just be you, not to be the big sister, the big sibling, not to be the responsible one, but to be the one who matters and the way it connects everyone to purpose. Brianna, the other thing that is striking to me about this organization is that it is totally led by young people who, I'm told are under the age of 30. And as someone who is well beyond the age of 30, it is also lifting because I think people are so critical of young people. They don't want to lead, they're not leading. And that's not true. You are young people who are stepping into a gap to say, we want to build this, but we want to be leaderful and not just a single leader. What does it mean to the camp, to the organization, Detroit Heals Detroit, to be intentional about youth-led leadership, Brianna?
It means everything pretty much. We've always kind of talked and just kind of gave our thoughts with each other about like if you're going to be doing something to change the future, do anything for the community, the future for young people. I highly think that it's important that you have young people front and center, who are making those decisions, who are giving their input, because they're who's living the right now. They're having the experiences, going through the day to day, and what I'm saying, down the road in the future, policy changes, whatever is happening, it will affect them. And I think it's very important that they have a say in that and that they aren't left out. And that's happened like so many times where we're having conversations about what we should be doing for the future, what we should be doing for our youth, and there are no youth present who can tell you how that affects them or what they think or what they feel should happen. And it's not like they don't have ideas. It's not like they don't see what's happening, like they don't experience it. It's just too many times it's just, the kids are left out, or they're silenced. Hey, don't talk about that. You're this is not for adult. This is for adults, not children. This is not you. But it's like they're still there on a day-to-day, seeing you experience things, experiencing it as well in their own way. And if they never get to talk about it or make any change or any action around that, they're just going to get tossed to the side. It's going to be like they're invisible almost. And that's definitely not something that we want to keep happening. And because we had experienced that ourselves, we were like, okay, how do we get in front of this? How do we make a space where we get to say what's going on, how it goes on, and it comes from a place of actual like love and positivity, and we keep this moving forward for other youth that are just like us, that want to make change, want to see things happen, want to do things, but feel like they don't have a voice, like they don't have the power. Like that's where we were coming from when we even started and created the organization. We were like, we just want to keep this kind of power going. Like we want to be able to empower you to know that they do have a voice, they do have the agency to make change, and we can show them exactly how to do it because we're doing it. And also showing them that they can have trusted adult allies who are by their sides and who will advocate for them and who will stand up for them. The youth in our camp are definitely much younger than us, but they see us as like the new adults now. So it's kind of like important for us to show them like, yeah, we're always here to support you, help you in any way you need us to, even if that means you don't need us at the moment. Like I'm absolutely will take a step back if you don't need me right now. You let me know when you do. And that's important for us to let them know, like, you have all the power in being able to say when and where, what, why, how, and people should be able to just support you in that and not tell you, what I'm saying, what to do and how to make change, because people make change in their own way, whether it's big or small. And I think a lot of people don't really think about that when they think about youth being empowering, leading, and stuff like that. It's not that they don't want to lead or that they can't, but nobody's making a space for them. Everybody's like, "Ooh, me, 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 me. Let me do it. Let me do it." But you've had your time to do it, and they want to shine too. So let's move over. Let the young people come in. Let them give their ideas. It's new. It's fresh. It's something that they, have thought about, but nobody gives them the space to. And so that's exactly what we're trying to do here, is give people the space to do things with their own mind, their own creativity, and let that speak for themselves. Youth are power. It's absolutely what you need to keep driving something forward, and we believe that wholeheartedly.
I think every major movement for freedom in this country and in many ways throughout the world has been led by young people, and often at the expense of young people who put their bodies on the line and don't get the credit for what it takes to show up even when people deny your power and your agency. Camille, when I first heard about this camp and started exploring it, I thought, oh my goodness, we need this right here. I live in the city of New Haven, Connecticut, and I thought, oh, we need this in New Haven. We need this in Los Angeles. We need this in small town Florida. There are so many spaces where young people are not being poured into, affirmed, and prepared for leadership, not waiting for them to lead and say, well, see, I told you that's why, but preparing them for that. What do you say to people who will hear this conversation, who will be as inspired by you and Brianna as I am, and say, well, what do we do? What can we do to affirm Black joy, particularly for young people? What's your message to others?
So on three different levels, if you're an organization that is working with young Black teens or young people in general, um, start forming coalitions and start forming like strategic partnerships with your other organizations, and also start doing some internal work where if you're looking at your leadership, right, and you're noticing that this is an entirely adult ran organization and you don't have any youth voice on your boards or on your leadership team. And no, we're not talking about advisory roles. We're talking on your leadership team. If you really want to see youth leadership, you have to give them the space and opportunity to be leaders, not leaders in training, because they already have the skills that are necessary to make change in their communities. They already know what changes need to be made in their communities because they're living through life with you. The folks who are closest to the problems, they're the most equipped to solve the issues. And so it makes sense for them to be at the front of your leadership. They should not be organizations that are informed by youth leadership. They should be guided by youth leadership. And so if you're wanting to see something like this replicated in your communities as a nonprofit organization, I think that is the first step, as well as making sure that you're creating genuine and authentic relationship with the young people that you're serving, not as clients, but as um, as family, as community members, because we're all choosing to do this life together. We're not just providing services to mitigate an issue. We're wanting to solve the issue. When it comes to interstate collaboration as well, reach out to us. And then finally, when it comes to the young Black people who are wanting to build healing and resilience hubs and programs in their own communities, just know that the answers are inside of you. You have the tools, you are the power. And so if there's anything that you're experiencing personally, whether that be in the realm of trauma or systematic oppression, understand that the people who are there to support you are your fellow young people. And so don't look at them as enemies, look at them as community, look at them as families, as people to continue to build power with. And if you're, wanting to also know more about that, you can also reach out to us as well. But the most essential way to create an organization like this is being intent on building relationship with the people around you, because that's ultimately how DHD was founded in the first place.
Brianna, this is about you've built an organization, you've built a camp, you all are building a movement to center joy, to center healing, and to center power. And all of that is challenging, right? It's hard work, but it's rewarding work. So, Brianna, I want to ask you this first. Given all that's happening and swirling and this hard work that you all step up to do every day, what brings you joy? Brianna, I'll start with you.
What brings me joy is, like Camille said, really is just like building that time and that bond with my community. Like, I'm gonna go and make plans and do things with my friends. We're gonna hang out, we're gonna bond, we're gonna talk. even just being with our youth at the camp, like they come to our events, they come to stuff, they visit us throughout the week, sitting there talking, laughing with them, have joking, stuff like that, it brings me joy. I've always been like a people person, so I'm always gonna have a good time when there's people around to, just talk and laugh and just enjoy like existing. That's something I do think people also take for granted, is just being able to exist and live and be in community with people and talk and laugh and eat and do things. Like, that's kind of stuff that people do take for granted. And a lot of people have gotten to be very individualistic and are like, I could do this all by myself. I'm gonna isolate and then come back. And it's like, that's not that's not how humans are even created. We're supposed to socialize. We're supposed to lean on each other and talk and trust in each other and have fun and make memories and stuff like that. That's what's really like joyful to me, like being able to look back and think about all my good memories I have with all these people, like getting to know them more deeply, them knowing me deeply, and us really being like, yeah, like I know you. And I'm like, yeah, I know you.
Camille, talk to me. What's bringing you joy? What brings you joy?
Yes. So I'd like to think of myself as a apathy disruptor. I think what brings me joy is bringing joy to other people. And so I think, you know, I wouldn't even consider it going out of my way, but being really mindful of like what the needs are, of the people, not even just the people who are closest to me, but the people who are around me and what they're experiencing. And it could be something as small as like, oh, like I thought about you, like here's an orange. And it makes me think about that one quote where it's like, the easiest way to, maintain a relationship with somebody is like small gifts. And so I like to do things like that, or if it's more so like creating like a community of sorrow as well, where it's like I can't solve your problems. I might not be able to relate on a personal level, but I can sit with you. I can sit with you and I can be here with you. I can be here for you. If you ask Bree or anybody, like I'm always just like, oh, how are you doing? Like, what do you need? Like, you hungry? You ate today? Just small things like that, because I feel like we are like living in a joy shortage right now, because of the things that are going on all around us, and makes it hard to get up each day and face face the world with joy. And joy is different than happiness. Joy is an experience that is shared, and I think happiness is tends to be like a fleeting emotion that is internal.
I am so grateful to the two of you. I wear this lapel pin that says Black Joy. And I wear it in those moments when I need to be reminded that joy is possible, that joy is our birthright, and that we have to nurture it even when the world tries to tell us that we can't have access to joy. And so I thank the two of you for the work that you do, for reminding me of that power of joy, but most importantly, for affirming it in young people who deserve it, who need it, and who have it if we just get out of the way and let them experience it. Camille Hollenquist is executive director and co-founder of Detroit's Black Joy Camp. Brianna Donald is co-founder and board chair of Black Joy Summer Camp. Thank you both so much.
Thank you.
Disrupted is produced by Kevin Chang Barnum, Robin Doyon Aiken, Erica McIntosh, and Meg Fitzgerald. Our interns are V. Zhuang and Tale Ricketson. Special thanks to our former intern, Isaac Moss. You can listen to more than 250 episodes of Disrupted in our archive. You can find us wherever you get your podcast. And you can listen for new episodes every Friday at 9 a.m. From Connecticut Public Radio, this is Disrupted. I'm Kalila Brown Dean. Thanks for listening.